Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another special episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. We have Jessica Uphoff on the show today. Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Chris, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. So I've been a follower of your social media and I see what you're doing with Neo Home Loans. So for those of our listeners that haven't maybe been exposed to your coaching and your leadership, can you kind of share what your business looks like, how long you've been in the industry, a little bit of that?
Sure. Yeah. So, Chris, I've been in the business for 20 years. I'm aging myself a little bit. It's actually 20 years this year in 2023. Started off as just an individual originator. And then in 2011, started running a team. So I hired my very first team member in 2011. So I've now been running a team this is my 12th year. Um, let's see, we grew rather quickly as a team. So from 2011 to current, I now have 15 people that report to me on my team. And we all work on the same sort of referral partners and accounts together. So that's kind of what's unique about my branch is I run kind of two businesses. I run our mortgage team, and then I also run a marketing team so that we can bring the business into the branch. So the next phase of my business is helping my originators generate their own business. So I kind of give them business right now. But the next phase of my business is helping teach the originators that I get to impact on a daily basis how to go do what I've done to bring the business into their own business.
So teaching them how to fish rather than fishing for
Exactly.
them.
Exactly. So
Awesome.
we've learned how to take the fish and do a really great job. Now it's time to learn to fish. So
Well, that is super valuable, especially for everybody in the industry, because with rates increasing, it becoming more competitive, there's a lot of need in the industry. And we have a lot of people reaching out to Connection Incorporated for marketing help, help following up with their database, help booking appointments with realtors. So I think our listeners are going to be very interested in what that process looks like now. So if
sure.
you were to take, okay, so what are you doing right now to fish for the loan officers in your organization where you're actually generating the activity for them? If you were to put your marketing hat on with what you
Sure.
do in the marketing side, what does that look like?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been working on a lot of the same accounts for a very long time. So I've got long-standing relationships. But what I will tell you is if I had to start over from ground zero, it's about solving problems. Uh, right now, problems are through the roof for real estate agents. A lot of them are starving. They haven't had a closing in several months. And they're running into roadblocks with the market, with sellers, with buyers. They have issues that they don't understand how to get past, and they're leaning on their own brokerages and mentors. But there's a huge amount of opportunity as a loan officer in today's world to solve problems for them. I'm very realtor focused. I do other channels of business such as builder, but a lot of my business has historically been realtor focused. And I will say right now is such an amazing opportunity to help realtors because a lot of the roadblocks that they're hitting have to do with affordability. And we just so happen to be on the other side of that affordability struggle. And so if you can solve to affordability and then teach them some of the principles that we've learned to help solve affordability issues, then you help them get contracts. So the last market cycle that we had prior to when the interest rates went up so much, we were in a multiple offer, low inventory. Those were our challenges that we had. And we had to help realtors solve those problems. They have a client that's like, hey, I've got 50 grand. I'm a first-time home buyer. I want to buy a house. And in the Denver market, as an example, if you had $50,000 in January of 2022 and you wanted to buy a single family home, it was pretty tough to do because you needed to have a reasonable down payment. You needed to have money for an appraisal gap. I mean, there was all kinds of challenges. So that first-time home buyer with perfect credit, a great salary, and 50 grand, that's a phenomenal client in most markets. Well, in that market cycle, that was a hard market cycle for that type of client. And so solving to that problem and teaching the client how to do appraisal gap coverage instead of pay out of pocket for an appraisal gap, and some of these things to solve to that problem. And then teaching the realtor, here's how I'm solving to these problems and how I'm converting your prospect into a contract. They learn to lean on you as a conversion leg of their business. And then they gain trust of like, oh, well, Jessica can take these people from me referring them to a contract, and I trust her to do that. And then even if they have other lending partners, they find that the problems that I'm solving to are actually helping them the most in their business. So that was what I was doing in the last market cycle. In this market cycle, again, solving to affordability issues, making it simple. Consumers, there's a lot of fear in the media. There's a lot of factors. A lot of people have opinions about if it's a good time to buy or not. And so if you can just keep it simple, yeah, and do a very good consultation with a buyer and teach them about the power of building wealth through real estate and the power of tools that we have in our back pocket to help with affordability. And then going back to the realtor and say, hey, this is what we did. And they're excited to buy. Here, I'm going to put them in your car to go write an offer on a house. And that's what it's about. It's not about like bringing them donuts or taking them to coffee. It's about helping them make money again, you know?
Absolutely, 100%. And I couldn't agree more, because I see so many people that are struggling with a value add for realtors. So they're trying to find something unique that they can take out, and they don't know what to come out with. And I think you're solving the greatest problem that the realtor has, how to solve that client. And so, two-part question.
Sure.
A, how are you packaging your knowledge and your expertise and your products that you've got into that first initial conversation with a realtor? So let's say you're making outbound calls, trying to set up new realtor referral relationships for the loan officers that are within your branch. How do you package together that knowledge as a hook to get that person initially interested?
Yeah.
And then once you've got the appointment, how do you actually turn that into a referral? So from a realtor saying, yes, I'd love to work with you, to, hey, I have a client for you to talk to, here's the referral.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think it's about asking the right questions. So once you get them to take the time to meet with you, I generally do my first realtor meetings over Zoom. I love having coffee with realtors and spending time with them, but it's like dating. You have to make sure there's chemistry there, right? So I generally try to just grab a quick Zoom meeting to ask the right questions and like understand about them and their business. Like, where do their referrals come from? What are their highest values in their business? What are their biggest challenges? What do their current lenders provide to them? Like, how do their lenders leverage them or help drive business to them? What are they aspiring to accomplish? Like, those are some really, really critical questions for me to understand. So then I can interject in that first call. If they're like, hey, I'm noticing that most of my clients are coming with their own lender, and they're missing out. These realtors are missing out on having a true partner that can actually help them grow their business. Yep. So I end up essentially trying to add value to my realtors, and the realtors are in different levels. I have realtors that need coaching on how to get people under contract. I have realtors that have that down pat, and they need coaching on how to build a team. So I have realtors at varying levels in my business, and it's about learning what they need and where my knowledge and skill set and problem solving, I can interject that, and then giving them enough of a taste on that very first call to be interested to have a real meeting with me, where we might go to lunch or something like that. And I also know the hooks. Like, hey, walk me through. I'll ask them a question like, so you have a client and they say, hey, I think that real estate prices are coming down. How do you answer that question? Or, hey, you have a client that's like, I'm going to wait for rates to fall. How are you answering that question? And I get a sense of the realtor of how knowledgeable they are, if they need some like sales skills as it relates to being able to talk about what's going on in the market. I think right now is such an interesting time because I think even real estate professionals are confused to think that maybe it's not a good time to buy because the media has got to them too,
Yep.
and it's about overcoming that narrative, that negative narrative. It's always a good time to buy real estate, especially when we're at an all-time low with inventory in the United States. Like anything that you have a small amount of that's highly desirable when we have a normal interest rate environment is something that's going to appreciate. And this is the number one opportunity to build wealth in our country is through purchasing real estate. And so it's just reminding realtors what we do. And here's how to overcome that narrative with your prospects. And here's how I'm going to help them overcome that narrative. Because a lot of prospects have the feeling that realtors could be pushy just because they want a sale. But when you get into an appointment with a lender that someone referred and that lender does a consultative approach and has a presentation with different slides that are kind of overcoming those objectives before they surface and pulling out those conversations and fears out of their prospects, that's something that I don't think a lot of lenders are doing. I think lenders are conditioned to take a lead, be like, yep, this is what you qualify for. This is where rates are, and just do it the old fashioned way where we're just focused on being a commodity and getting people into debt. Well, lending is changing.
Yep.
In order to be able to actually get the business and be the resource, humanity wants a really good consultative approach in lending. That's the future of our business. And the loan officers that are going to adopt that and become that conversion leg for a realtor's business are the ones that are ultimately going to flourish,
I could not agree more. And I love, at no point in there did you talk about products, services, turn times, how fast you can get the loan closed.
Right.
Like none of that, which is, from an industry norm perspective, what a lot of people are trying to lead their realtor appointments with. And having that mindset shift of truly looking at a partnership. You started with, is this person a good fit for me at all? Obviously, I qualify them before I give them my time. And then really diving into that value-based proposition. I mean, you're consulting the realtor just like you need to teach the realtor to consult the client, and then how you're consulting the client as well. So I absolutely love that. Now, in getting that first referral from the realtor. So let's go through the process of, we've reached out, we've got the first appointment, we've made sure that there's a good fit, we've had a secondary appointment, started to solve problems, started to position ourselves as a lender that has value to help them grow their business, become a better salesperson, whatever it is that hook is, that problem that they have in their business. We've positioned ourselves as a solution to that for them. The meeting ends, and then there's this gap. There's always this like awkward gap that happens after that great first meeting of just like, do I call them and ask for the business? Are they going to reach out to me? It's like that. It's that awkward, like, hey, we just had a date. Is she going to call me back type thing? So how do you approach that in getting the first referral from somebody that you want to work with and you've had a good appointment with?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think having like structure around that is really important.
Yes.
We all get really busy. And even though, I had a great appointment with the ABC lender, I think where a lot of lenders might go wrong is that they just fall off. Like they just assume they're not interested because they never got a lead and maybe they call a couple more times. It's not necessarily that easy, right? Like building a relationship takes time, any kind of relationship. And so what I always focus on is adding value, add value, add value, add value. So maybe I took really good notes in our first meeting about their struggles, and maybe their struggles are, I'm struggling with my listings. Like my listings are sitting, I'm not getting any showings. I'm not getting any offers. My sellers are getting frustrated with me because I'm having to constantly be recommending price reductions. So maybe they told me this and I go back and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send them a video. I'm going to send this realtor a video about how they can position a price reduction with their seller and like give them some financial data around that, and maybe an approach where they would take a smaller price reduction and do a different strategy, and maybe that's a very custom video to that client. using something that's easy to understand for not only the agent, but also for the seller, has nothing to do with me or lending or a buyer or a lead. It's just me thinking about our meeting, something I heard that they were struggling with, and then coming back and saying, you know what, I was thinking of you and I decided to do XYZ as I thought this might be useful, right? And then I send it. They might not respond because that's how it goes. And then I'm just like, hey, did you get, like, just text them, hey, did you happen to watch my video? And it's just, you got to build that relationship. Maybe have a happy hour every other month or so and invite those folks that you had a great meeting to that happy hour. Try to bring them to a lunch or coffee with another professional that might be able to refer them to.
Oh, I
So
love
every realtor on the planet right now needs referrals. And loan officers have a hard time because we only get X number of referrals per year and we have this many business partners, right? So we have to kind of pick and choose who we give our personal referrals to. But what we can do is we can become connectors, and
Yeah.
we can say, hey, I heard you say that this type of relationship would be impactful for you. I think there's so many opportunities with financial advisors and, CPAs and roofing companies, and just people can have an impact on each other's businesses. And sometimes it's just about who you know. So
Yep.
if you have relationships and then you can make connections and say, hey, let's go to lunch. It takes time on the phone and time over text and time on social media and time at lunch to build those relationships. It's not instantaneous. And I think that's what's hard about this market cycle, is that a lot of lenders unfortunately lost sight during the pandemic of where the business comes from. And they were in harvest mode, not seed planting mode.
Yeah.
And I think that now that there's no harvest going on, they think that going and calling on a realtor and having a meeting, that you should be harvesting from that. And it just doesn't work like that. So it takes time to build relationships.
Oh, 100%. And one of the things that you struck on there that I'm constantly aware of and coaching on is structure, and making sure that you have a process for reaching out after you've done the appointment. How are you going to make that individualized contact to that contact so that you're staying in touch long term? Because that's what wins the business. Because especially in today's marketplace, deals aren't falling out of the sky. You have to be there and be front and center when that contract comes in, when they do get that opportunity. And it might be a month, it might be a month and a half, it might be 2 months. But if you're continually following up, you're the loan officer that's going to get that opportunity and get that opportunity to get the second opinion call on that. So that's incredibly valuable. So we could talk for hours, Jessica, but I do like to keep these bite-sized and kind of drive time. Now, your coaching, I mean, we've just like scratched the surface on the value that you provide to the industry. So I highly recommend following you on social media. Where do people go to get more information about you? I mean, working on a team that
Yep.
provides leads and all of those wonderful things might be interesting to some of our listeners. How do people find out about you, and how do you like people to reach out?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. The team name is the Concierge Team. So at Neo Home Loans. And I would love to chat with any originator about what their goals are and what we provide as an organization at Neo and at the Concierge Team. But yeah, I think Instagram and Facebook is a good way. And then obviously you can email me, jessica.uphoff@neohomeloans.com. And I would, be happy to help any originator that reaches out.
That is amazing. Well, Jessica, again, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing with us today.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.